Hunter saves it. Hunter Hughes is coming around. Here comes Colton Gardner. It's Hunter Hughes!
Turn 4 for the final time. Who's got more ponies? Checkered flag out. Bluegrass 150 goes to Ian Miller.
And welcome back to the Daily Dribble Podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammit.
Good, get the name out there. It's like, hey, Joseph Newgarden, you're the guy with the sperm commercial. Yeah.
Well, just 2 rounds remaining here in the 7th season of Wednesday Night Dash. And we've got what some consider to be the most challenging of the tracks to set us up for the grand finale in Phoenix. We welcome you to the mountains of Pocono and the Tricky Triangle for 45 laps. As I believe no JP Jones. Did I see a JP Jones? Yes, I did. So we it. We'll run it back for 1 Green-White-Checkered. And we'll try to close that gap to Colton Gardner. Third place still continues to be a battle further back between Jax Malin and Jacob Barker. So we will see if they are able to close that gap. But again, Robert Lewis, a big shakeup there. But your championship two remain on the front row. Let's see if Gardner can close that gap. Let's go racing at Pocono. Watch Robert Lewis down low in that teal 20 as he tries to work that Ford Mustang through the inside. Garrett Jarnagin in the 32 trying to go with him. And up top you got Gardner trailing. Believe Jacob Barker in that unique livery. The Halloween one-off, if you will. And all of a sudden here comes Derek Booker in the Hot Wheels 95. A big move to the inside will clear Jarnagin, as well as Barker, but goes around. Will he be able to save it? Side by side. Keep your foot. Oh, what a save from Derek Booker. Major positions lost on track. But boy, just thankful that he's able to keep that Camaro going. So Robert Lewis gets the promotion up into P2. As here comes Colton Gardner as we complete our first lap back into turn number 1. Jacob Barker just giving chase in that black and orange Logitech Camaro. Boy, it has been bangs out early for everybody seemingly except Dawson Buchanan, who is already out into the open blue. And pretty much in all scenarios, barring a victory here, or excuse me, a complete dropout for Colton, you gotta imagine this championship fight is gonna remain possible all the way until the final round. But the question we still gotta ask is, how close in points is that going to be? And unfortunately, not the start to the race Colton Gardner has won and already down 2 positions. Could be 3 here as Barker lunges to turn number 1. That high banking has really made it the prime spot for overtaking. Not too much of a shocker there. We see this to become the main overtaking spot in the real-life racing we've seen here, both in NASCAR as well as the glory days of IndyCar running here. So that is another spot, 3 down for Colton Gardner, but immediately gets right on the bumper. A little bit further back, though, Chris Fuge, Garrett Jarnagin, and Casey Tucker really start to give it a chase here. Gardner just running it a little bit more tight. Good run further back for Garrett Jarnagin, who will look to the inside. This is the battle for 6th. Jarnagin not getting victory so far this season, but would certainly be thrilled with the top 5 heading into Phoenix. Foley clears Christopher Fuge there. All of a sudden, the gap to the lead starts to diminish just a little bit. Unique livery for Jax Malin, kind of doing the murdered out car. Feels like everybody's kind of doing the blackout here with, looks like Robert Lewis went a little bit into the wall there, coming out at 3. And this will open the door to Jax Malin. Is there enough momentum there to work it on the inside? The daring passes from Jax Malin we are no stranger to here on Wednesday Night Dash. And he's able to work his way through, no problemo. All that battling further back has given a lot more breathing room for Dawson Buchanan. This will help even more as Jacob Barker tries to work his way onto the podium. And now Robert Lewis starting to run out of steam. Here comes Colton Gardner. Another one-off livery for him, the Jiffy Lube 40. That about giving a bit of a nudge there to the 20. Now goes down low, trying to go with Barker. Plenty of lanes to choose from here. And again, with just how wide this front straightaway is, we have seen cars be 5, 6, 7 abreast coming into this first corner. The beauties of Pocono. Still side by side, Colton Gardner waiting to pick up the scraps. He'll go for it now, launching off at turn number 2. Already now a second and a half the gap from this, 5-car furball all the way up to Malin and Lewis. Tries to make it 2 cars in 2 corners. A little bit wide there. Another overdrive from Robert Lewis. Now Jacob Barker starts to get thrown to the wolves because Casey Tucker's right there. Garrett Jarnagin trying to go around the outside. Chris Fuge right in the mix as well. You got to look pretty much all the way back to Eric Richardson here in the Hardy's 80 for guys that aren't really in this lead pack. Dawson Buchanan with a chance to leave tonight with being one of the most front-running drivers in Pocono's history. This being one of the most frequent tracks we've stopped at due to just how unique it is. And I could talk to you about an hour about how funky of a track this is. That scared me for a second because that looked like connection issues maybe for Jax Malin if my camera stops moving like that. That's because we can't see him, and he might have internet issues. Like Colton Gardner was starting to feel for a way around up into 3rd through Robert Lewis, who again, just like riding a bike, working his way back up into the mix here. I believe we saw his return yesterday for the Hoosier 250 and a phenomenal drive to the finish, mind you, from Matthew Faust. And out in front, the battle for the lead continues to develop here as Malin puts the pressure on, and they are peeling away from the remainder of the field. A second and change further back to Robert Lewis. Hunter Hughes, your all-time laps leader at 41, with Dawson Buchanan just behind, coming into this race at 28 out in front. He's already raised that up now to 36. Colton Gardner with 22 points, or 22 laps out in front. TLV, Tyler Lugo Vickery at 17. Nick Warboy at 12. 2 pole positions for Colton Gardner, 1 for Dawson Buchanan. Unfortunately, no Tyler Lugo Vickery this evening. One of the guys that was hoping to end his Indy Racing World Series tenure on a high note after victory at Gateway, but hardware and software issues sidelined him about 20 laps into the race. That leaves us with still a very impressive 18 car field tonight. We talk about the progressive growth of this field, especially throughout 2025. And I mean, the year I've been privileged to call those 2 series. Here's a move from Colton Gardner as he tries to make the inside work on Robert Lewis. And again, we talk about the tight corners of Pocono. Only 3. When you only got 3 corners, all of those are almost going to be, how would I describe this? It's 3 seemingly short course corners connected by Indianapolis Motor Speedway size straightaways. So it truly is a circuit that drives unlike any other in terms of ovals, because you gotta drive it like a road course, with your marks, with your, I suppose, your coast points. At this point, we're definitely not getting on the anchors unless there's a caution. But mastering that turn-in point, mastering that apex. Oh, Derek Booker further back. We just saw that barely in the back of our picture. And that's a big shot into the wall. DJ Fluck nearly collected. And a heck of a lick there to the inside wall. Fortunately, didn't get into the pit attenuator. And what started as the curse of the 5 has unfortunately evolved into the curse of the 93. And Derek, I know you can hear me. We got to figure out if we can make a Mach 5 in Xfinity car for Phoenix. We'll have to see what we can do on that front. Speaking of front, Dawson Buchanan just a couple laps away from leading the most laps at Pocono in WND history. Jarnagin, you can see, defend further back, or excuse me, Colton Gardner defending from Robert Lewis. Had a little bit of a look to the inside. Jacob Parker has a big lift. I'm not sure if that's an intentional ripping of top, good sir, but you kept it out of the wall. That's what matters. And that is textbook definition of going how badly you want to be in the picture a little bit further up the field. And the streets are telling me that we have a caution, and I believe it is this man on track that has indeed brought that out. Bill Mulfield's further back, not collected. DJ Fluck, that was the pack that almost got involved, though. And again, I think if there's anything we've really learned this season about this current spec Xfinity Series, I guess in about a week, we're going to be calling them the O'Reilly Series cars. The amount you have to drive this car with your feet is simply baffling. Like, even more than Car of Tomorrow or 6th Gen, because just so sensitive to pivoting no matter where you look at it. And you look at even the supers we've gone to, guys have struggled for rear grip. We saw it a ton at Gateway in Milwaukee. We even saw it at the intermediates like Las Vegas. It has been an interesting struggle here as guys have tried to learn where cars are dialed in, how to get them dialed in, and that's why we've seen some guys kind of come out of nowhere and have things really, really dialed in. You saw JP Jones at Fontana get things figured out. You saw Nick Warboy a couple weeks ago. You see some people, Tyler Lugo Vickery, get things figured out. So it's a back and forth struggle here. But when you've got it dialed in, you are practically untouchable in these Xfinity cars. Call him Connor Zilic. So pit row opens for the first time today as we're about to reach the 1/3 point. Ooh, bit of a nudge there from Jackson Lambros into Colton Gardner. You got to hope that's not a pit speed violation. Colton Gardner coming in. And I suppose once more, the question we got to ask ourselves is who would be staying out? And the answer is nobody. Buchanan as your championship leader, going to have the forwardmost stop. Colt right behind. And I believe Robert Lewis actually gets that third row just in front of Jackson Lambros. Everyone off the Jackson in the front now going over to the inners. And we'll see how long they wait for fuel. Buchanan and Colton don't. See right now, Robert Lewis struggling there as he was just a little bit off his marks. Came in a little bit too deep to the box, had to get pushed back. So we'll fall back way down to 9th now. That promotes Jackson Lambros into 3rd. Garrett Jarnagin in 4th. Nick Warboy, always a dark horse, it feels like, man. Has a really good race, and from some incident that's not his fault, somehow wads up the 27 with like 5 laps to go. Could this be the day that record changes? So everyone going for all 4 tires, it felt like, at that point. And it is still that American Antler Company machine of Dawson Buchanan out in front. 440 at the top of the pylon. A mantra we have repeated very often so far this season. You can see the fans are packed here in virtual Pocono as they are ready for a thrilling restart. Here, this is TV3. Is this going to give me the full racetrack? Get a good view as well of the infield we have here at Pocono, which as recently as I believe 2013 hosted a top-tier road race with the Grand Am Series, but hosted GTP and GTO racing well throughout the 80s and early 90s. I believe Trans Am used this track for that as well. I believe now mostly used just for club racing and maybe some regional stuff. I know Skip Barber Racing School has used it for a point. But why do that when you can have 3 left-handed turns? It's already given us such phenomenal racing so far. So Dawson Buchanan, Colton Gardner on the front row yet again. And in what almost feels like a carbon copy of this first start, you got Jackson Lambros, Garrett Jarnagin just behind. Nick Warboy, Jacob Barker, Chris Fuge, Eric Richardson moving up just a little bit. Brian McKinney getting an opportunity. with Casey Tucker and Robert Lewis on row number 5. Back to it. Oh, wow. Great start for Dawson Buchanan. That has really caught Colton Gardner sleeping. Everybody running up to the high line. Malin already filtering his way up into second. Now 4-car breakaway further back. Nick Warboy trying to get to work on Chris Fuge, Jacob Barker. As we work our way down the long back straightaway, a turn between turns 2 and 3 for the first time. Staying clean and green here after one lap on the restart, and it is still the man who won earlier this year at this very track in the trucks. Out in front, Dawson Buchanan, with Jax Malin continuing to freak us out with that free Denny's Wi-Fi, with Colton Gardner and Garrett Jarnagin giving chase. Garrett Jarnagin, always a hard charger, but seemingly a better defender in his ability to hold positions. Jacob Barker trying to challenge, though. Sneak pass here coming through turn number 3. And again, just like Indy, playing that game of how close can you get to the inside wall. A little bit too close to the outside wall there was Dawson Buchanan. Jax Malin gonna fly on through and take the lead. Here comes Colton Gardner. Buchanan all the way down to the inside to defend. He goes wide. This sets up the switchback for the 40. Jarnagin, Barker, Chris Fuge right there with him. Malin out like a cannon, 4/10 lead. Now Barker gets hung up to dry. He's looking for a way to slot right in. Chris Fuge has no plans of making him coexist with him. But the inside still becomes a little bit preferred as he continues to try and dig against Chris Fuge there. And Garrett Jarnagin still 2 abreast. Just further back, get the camera on that for you. Slaving away on the inside line. Suddenly, Chris Fuge wants to be a part of that party. Thought about it. And backed out. Could be another spot here, though. If Barker's able to do it, you can see him flick just a little bit to the right there, getting the side grabbed from that 32 Mustang. Little bit of a sidestep, carried a smidge too much speed there. Doesn't drive Jarnagin up the racetrack, but will stay 2 abreast. Not sure how confident the man behind the wheel of that 12 machine is, but he's certainly learning a lot right now about driving that car in shallow. What a move from Jacob Barker, getting 2 spots. Nick Warboy in the 27 now in the mix. Looking at P4 back to P7. Oh man, Jarnagin tried to get Barker on exit there. I wish I could get a replay of that angle from somewhere else because it looked like he was about to clip the inner rear quarter there. That 12 machine, but we stay clean. Brian McKinney just a little bit further back in the grade 8. Starts to work into the mix. Eric Richardson, Casey Tucker, John Miles right there with him. Jacob Barker under fire once again. Garrett Jarnagin. Tries to feed him his own messaging as Jackson Lambros is having a strong here at Pocono. Bames Nond is having a strong call of ambulance. 4-car freight train in the battle. Oh, big moment there. Fuge, Warboy into the wall. That is something you cannot get away with more than once. I mean, you can, but it's just going to be big-time damage. Change in the battle for P2. Gardner trying the inside of Malin. Malin getting the draft advantage just a little bit further behind. And again, the side draft being a key player here. You're not getting the full effect of running with getting that speed boost if you're tucked into the bumper of the guy behind, but again, that slipstream is not necessarily flush to the car. You're kind of making a cone of dirty air being pushed off of the nose of your car, so even being in the side draft gives you a little bit of speed. Not nearly as much, though, again, as being right in lockstep, right in the tracks of the guy behind you. Nick Warboy making moves on Chris Fuge into turn number 1 will fully clear him. And now McKinney in the 8 trying to go with him. Haven't talked too much about Robert Lewis since his pit lane woes, and that struggle has unfortunately continued, has not been able to move forward. In fact, has moved back. Casey Tooker's passed him, and just behind John Miles is thinking about maybe making another move. JP Jones, Connor Fuge, way up into the wall there. Connor running, believe that would be a Carl Edwards Aflac tribute car, I think. Don't know if you can run a car like that and not mention Carl Edwards. Eric Richardson with a little bit of a bobble. We missed out on that, but now he's dropped back from 8th to 10th. And Robert Lewis is trying to make the most of it. Chris Fuge continues to drop back. McKinney bounces on the inside. Tooker goes with Fuge on the high line. And McKinney able to slot right back in. Only one driver has been able to challenge the 4 out in front. It's been Jax Malin. But business as usual, because that American Antlers Company, number 4, has just been unstoppable to this point. And just like that, has become the quickest driver, the most dominant driver in Pocono in Wednesday night dash history. Colton Gardner's had enough of waiting around in 3rd. He wants that runner-up spot from Jax Malin. Will fully clear him. Kind of parks the bus coming out of turn number 1. Ooh, little bit of a... You can see just how tight the 40 was there, the kind of jerking motion coming into turn number 3. Big moment of understeer there. And that will open the door for Jax Malin to try and get on through. On the rear bumper of that 40 of Colton Gardner. And trying to watch the movement of Jax Malin here. Coming in at turn 3. Has a really, really early turn in there, not going beneath the yellow line. We can see how much quicker he runs up on track. Has to be a little bit more hesitant on throttle. And that's unfortunately the patience that a lot of new guys have had to learn. Current party included there, because you're so eager to just get into the corner. But the advantage of arcing it late feels so counterintuitive at first, but you're able to roll so much more speed off of the corners. flipping the camera here to the interior. Watch those hands of Colton Gardner. Let's see how he's feeling this. Just a little bit wide here. Wide entry. Late exit. Now goes flat. No downshift. Just touching 190 going into turn number 1. You can see Dawson getting early on the throttle, trying to force Colton into overdriving just a little bit on exit. Forcing that mistake. But we talked at the end of last week about the respect between these two drivers, the fact that they can go all out and their battles are going to end in handshakes and not heartbreak. And we're seeing another great example of that right now. Still think Gardner's just a little bit... Man, that thing is not being nice to him on corner entry. Now the boulder, unfortunately, that battle rolls right back to the bottom of the hill. Switch it over to gyro here so you guys can get a good idea of just how banked these corners are. Gardner up into the wall. A little bit of a nudge there coming out of turn number 2. And unfortunately, not the first car today we have seen make that mistake. Oh, trouble further back. One of the Fuges. Chris Fuge immediately throwing in the towel. Is that going to be a caution? Oh, boy. The beauty of that long front straightaway, as I can see incidents quite literally half a mile back. So let's see what happened. Chris Fuge has been struggling big time. You see him filtered all the way back now outside of the top 10 with John Miles and JP Jones. And let's see here. Coming out of turn number 3, was there contact or was this self-induced? Field kind of starts to check up. Nope, just another lick coming out of turn number 3, right into the pit attenuator. That is unfortunately day done, it would seem, for Chris Fuge. And some cool runnings for Dawson Buchanan at the point. Battle for third continues to go at it, though. As Jax Malin tries to fend off Jacob Barker and Garrett Jarnagin. Barker with a little bit of a wiggle on exit there, getting into the wall. Ooh, a little bit shallow from Garrett as well. Just got a little bit of grass there in the Big Deborah. 32. I'd argue one of the few drivers that's ran the exact same livery every single race this year. Here's a look to the inside from Jacob on Jax. Again, just asking a little bit too much from those Goodyears. 2/3 of the way home here in the Pocono 45. And at this point, Colton Gardner is going to be really hoping for some kind of caution to throw him back into the mix here. can, unfortunately. Dawson Buchanan making things a little bit boring for us here in week 9. And all of a sudden, Jacob Barker getting washed up. Garrett Jarnagin getting an opportunity to pounce. Not quite, because that's a great exit for Jacob, who actually sets up an over-under here into turn number 2. We'll see if he can get it done. You can still see Jax going as far to the inside of the racetrack as possible. Now Barker has to defend, go middle of the racetrack to defend from Garrett. It's a phone booth fight right now, but again, it feels like who's trapped in with who. Both of them into the wall again. Oh boy. And that's got to be side damage, certainly, to both of those guys. That's the tendency of Pocono, man. Just the eagerness of driving, the tendency to force guys into overdriving. Barker into the wall again. Is he able to hold on to it? There is clearly something off in that W12. Warboy going to go on through. And that's a position for Jarnagin, but you could argue that that 32 Mustang is certainly not right either. So the mistake that caught out Colton Gardner from this duel for the lead earlier on could be what's just taken Jacob Barker, unfortunately, out of this race. Further ahead, Eric Richardson and Casey Tooker. These guys able to salvage a couple of spots here from a handful of mistakes. And Richardson just able to lead this point. Tooker tries to block Robert Lewis. Can't quite get there. Had good momentum, but Tooker says, not today. Now tries to roll that momentum to the inside of the 80. Another new livery we've seen from Eric Richardson. And now Tooker will lead this 3-pack. Jarnagin able to get Jacob Barker away, but now the Jaws music starts once again because Nick Warboy in the Budweiser 27, excuse me, starts to work his way into that mix as well. 10 laps to go from Pocono. Further back, battle for 4th. Warboy tries to get the move done on the inside of turn number 3. Not quite able to get there. Warboy, top 5 on laps led at Pocono, has been a little bit quicker in the trucks, likes the cars loose, but has really struggled so far this year in the Xfinity machinery. Now tries the outside as further back. Tooker goes at it with Richardson. Tries to go the long way around, and he's got it. You got to remember, he's able to carry so much more speed there by holding the high line. Jarnagin forced to take that shallow entry into the corner. Like taking turn 1 at Monza all the way on the right-hand side of the racetrack, like at pit exit. And Warboy out like a cannon. Oh my goodness. Already nearly a second put on them. JP Jones, Robert Lewis. And we'll see if the outside line proves to reign supreme again. It does. JP Jones, who I could have talked to at the podium at the Hoosier 250 yesterday, had a Tuesday night to forget. And we'll try to work with these boys to end the week on a top 5 here at Pocono. Been up and down so far. Haven't had a lot of races, though, where we've seen JP outside of the top 10. He's kind of danced just around that line, though. Struggling for top 5s. Again, Robert Lewis in that, what is it, snooze? 20. Starting to build pace once again. Here comes Richardson to the inside of Tucker. Watch for the flames being thrown out from the sides here from those exhaust pipes. Giving us a great indication. Around goes Richardson. JP barely dodging it. Lewis getting a piece of it as well. Are we going to stay green? No, we are not. And just like that, second caution of the night comes in the nick of time for Colton Gardner and Jax Malin. Try and get you a better replay here. And it was Tucker that first hooked Richardson, and Lewis, just with nowhere to go, was unable to get away and just became a passenger, went into the wall too to add insult to injury. You gotta imagine this is frustrating stuff, though, for Dawson Buchanan, who has had such a great night out in front and has to rebuild that second and change lead he's had over Colton Gardner. Join Wednesday night Dash drivers Eric Richardson and DJ Fluck as they bring you the week in real and simulated motorsports. On this week's episode, DJ and Eric talk about DJ's shock win at Iowa during last week's Indy Racing World Series event and the latest in NASCAR playoffs, and a strange filing update in the NASCAR/2311 ordeal. Download FR Racing's Garage Talk on Spotify or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Tune in after the race. All new episodes released Friday mornings, including the simulcast here on Stadium Scene TV starting at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Knew there was going to be potentially an announcement as well coming from 2311 here in the coming days. You got to imagine, knee-jerk, that would be a, from what I've heard, more likely than not will be a Xfinity program, or I guess we got to start calling that the O'Reilly's program now. I got to start calling these O'Reilly's cars. But more likely than not will be Xfinity. But you've got potentially a team that doesn't want to work with NASCAR anymore, and a team called Prema that is trying to keep their foot in the door at IndyCar and is struggling to make next year possible. One might imagine we could see a migration for Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin's program. Great pit from Nick Warboy. Able to jump a couple. Garrett Jarnagin. And it really comes from a nightmare stop for the 9. Falls all the way back down to 7th. And Jax Malin gonna need some magic on this restart. And Eric Richardson is going to let the leaders on through. Are we going back green this time by? No, we are not. I'm trying to think of who I can bring back in here. Let me get a driver who has had some really good pace up until this point, but doesn't really have the opportunity right now. It is Robert Lewis who will join us here momentarily for the Pit Boss in-race update. Robert, it's Jackson in the Stadium Scene broadcast booth. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
A return to, well, it was glory at the pole. You've been having some trouble here in the second half. Talk to me about your return race here so far.
Well, it's been all right. I really messed up my pit stop. That's what killed me. Blew my box. So, you know, I was starting to gain a little bit there, and I got stuck behind some people, and the crash was unfortunate. Destroyed my car, but
Obviously, some good pace we saw from you in qualifying. Think you're going to be able to unravel that here in the last 5 laps?
we're going to try. And that's the best I got.
Only one way to find out. Best of luck to you, Robert. Good to see you back.
Thank you.
So, Robert Lewis, the spooky Discord audio here for the Discord update for Halloween as we get back to green. And again, one green-white-checkered. Should we need it? I would like for us to not need it because, man, we've had a really bad rap of green-white-checkers in the past couple weeks. So ending this one under green would be very nice. $14 points. Fittingly, the gap between the 4 and the 40 in the championship lead. And the 40 out in front for Colton would have a great opportunity in maximizing his odds of a championship come Phoenix. And when we see the green flag, Dawson Buchanan's only going to have 4 laps to defend in the 4. Back to it from Pocono. Warboy trying to make a move on Jarnagin. McKinney down low tries to go with him. Not able to get to the bumper. Big block from Jax Malin as he's considering making it 3 wide. Look at Eric Richardson further back. Monster run out of turn number 2, but loses a lot of that airspeed. Here comes Jax Malin to the inside. He gets washed up, almost loses it. Casey Tucker hooks Malin. Goes around and gets contact with Richardson. Barker gets collected. Fluck gets collected. And my hopes of ending under green have perished here in the Poconos. Oh boy. Watching the replay here, and it was just a very deep drive from Jax Malin, but it's the phenomenal run from Casey Tucker, who just has nowhere to go. That spins that car, and then unfortunately for Eric Richardson, you see right there behind that teal car of this zoom is miserable. Sorry, gang. Can I get you guys a better view? Let's see here. Oh, far better. Let's try that again. It really gets set up because Nick Warboy tried splitting him. Malin goes deep. Look at this monster run from Casey Tucker. Malin went to the top, didn't know he was coming. And then unfortunately, Eric Richardson, who just popped out from the back of Robert Lewis, just did not know he was there. Major shunt. What happened earlier back? What happened to DJ Fluck, though? And I believe that's Jacob Barker. That's not Mattingly. Mattingly, you see there in the Whataburger Toyota. And I think in trying to avoid that, got turned unintentionally by Jacob. Oh boy. We're known for having aggression here from Jax. And unfortunately, that bites the 9 back once again. We'll have 3 laps to go this time. Nick Warboy with the promotion up into 3rd. And a couple of outsiders here with some big-time potential. Brian McKinney, JP Jones, John Miles, Robert Lewis back in the mix. Gonna be interesting. Step aside for just a minute here while we get them sorted out. Try and see if we've got any penalties on the way. I'll get back to you here in just a second. You're watching the Pocono 45 here on Stadium Scene TV. Stay with us. Back here live from the Tricky Triangle, getting set for a green-white-checkered finish here. So white flag will get us started. And whatever comes next, whether it's the caution or the white or the checkered flag, that will end it for us. Inside has been a big premium in Dawson. We talked about it with DJ last week. Has been so good on these restarts, giving variety, catching guys sleeping. Let's see if he can do it again here. Boom. No defense from Colton Gardner. Warboy doesn't have the opportunity to cover. You see Eric Mattingly way down there thinking about making it 3 wide, though, trying to work his way into the top 5. But Colton Gardner with a really good opportunity here. Brian McKinney making a move as well further back, just cutting JP Jones up for P5. Jacob Barker all the way down low as well, trying to make a move. And now Jarnagin with a good run as well. JP Jones in too deep, off of line. McKinney sets up a crossover. Miles right there with him. Not able to get there. How's it looking out in front? No pressure for Dawson Buchanan. And we will see the white flag. Yellow flag, we freeze the field, but we could be running to the checkered flag. And Dawson Buchanan just needs 3 more corners to widen this championship gap in the run to Phoenix. Buchanan challenging Warboy for his first podium of the season. Jackson Malin further back trying to make a move as well. But Colton Gardner in that 40. A drive that's not impossible, but the difficulty looks to widen even bigger. Come Phoenix for one more Wednesday in a week, out of turn number 3 for the final time. Simply dominant from Dawson Buchanan, who takes victory in week 9 at Pocono, and Nick Warboy, his first podium in Wednesday Night Dash. Jarnagin home in 4th, JP Jones with a top 5 finish, McKinney, Malin, Miles, Mattingly with Eric Richardson rounding out your top 10. Frustration for Colton Gardner yet again, but you get the feeling that anything can happen, more than likely will happen, once we get to the act of crowning a champion in Phoenix. Your final results then, and it was Dawson Buchanan with the victory over Colton Gardner, Nick Warboy with Jarnagin, JP Jones. You guys have seen the top 10 with further back Jacob Barker, Robert Lewis, DJ Fluck, Connor Fuge, and then Tucker, Mulfield, Chris Fuge, Booker, all out. And it is another tidy donut from Dawson there. Oh, yeah. Well, looks like he's trying to do an Aussie burnout as well. Drama-free is the point. Don't think there was a time on track. He was beneath second out on the track and not a bent piece of sheet metal on that number 4 car. We'll grab your podium here and be back for interviews in just a moment here. Your podium here after 45 laps at Pocono, and we start with a newcomer in the 27, and it's the one, Nick, that I feel like has been a couple of races where you felt like you maybe had a real possibility and maybe bad luck struck you, but everything finally came together here in Pocono. Talk to me about how you got it done from behind the wheel.
It's another track that I like.